Hey guys, welcome to CakeWalk Cambridge. I'm Aisha and today we're going to start with Chapter 10, Diseases and Immunity. We are approximately halfway through the syllabus, so let's just keep going and let's work towards that A star. Okay, so first you need to know specific definitions. So basically a pathogen is a disease-causing organism. So you've probably heard the term pathogen very often in biology. So basically, and even in chemistry, like one use of chlorine is to kill bacteria or pathogen. Both of the words are like interchangeably used in your mark scheme. So basically a pathogen is a disease-causing organism. The term pathogen and this definition are very important. Pathogen appears repeatedly in your paper and disease-causing organism fetches you 1 mark for your definition. A transmissible disease is one in which the pathogen can be passed from one host to another. So for example, if we're going to look at the coronavirus, okay, because that's kind of what we're like, that's the situation we're under right now, the circumstances we're under. So basically, it is transmissible because it can be, the virus is passed on from one host, that could be me, to another host, that could be my friend, due to direct or indirect contact. So here, this explains it. So the pathogen for a transmissible disease may be transmitted either through direct contact, that is through blood or body fluids. So, for example, if you have HIV, which is human immunodeficiency virus, if you supposing, people who have who do drugs, they use needles, and if you use the same needle with someone else, please don't do that. But if you use the same needle, your blood, the blood that is on the needle, the remnants of the blood, will be transmitted to the other person, and the virus that is in the blood will also be transmitted. So that is through blood or body fluids. And body fluids could be through sexual contact, for example, during sexual intercourse, which you will learn about later in chapter 16. And the other one is obviously indirectly, that is from contaminated surfaces of food, from animals or from the air. So contaminated surfaces of food, so that could be so in my textbook there was this example of a butcher having some sort of like disease. When he cuts the animal, the pathogen is transmitted to the animal is consumed by people, and when not cooked properly. So usually heating is what denatures the pathogen, the bacteria, but if it's not heated properly, then it still lives. So that is taken in by other consumers and they get the disease. So indirectly it's transferred, or again via droplets in the air, like the coronavirus. You sneeze, it has like the particles are scattered in the air, someone else may breathe it in, and you have it. That's it. That's pretty much all you need to know. The first two definitions, very important. This third part, you just need to be able to understand and explain. Okay, that's it. And give examples, direct contact and indirect contact. Okay, so defenses of the body. So you have four defenses, two barriers. So you have a mechanical barrier and a chemical barrier. A mechanical barrier is one that will not be completely, that will not involve itself, that it will not change. Okay, or like, it will not change. So basically, a mechanical barrier would be your skin. Okay, because it prevents pathogens from entering your blood. Your skin covers your blood. It is a mechanical barrier. And the second one would be hairs in the nose. That is your ciliated cells, those hairs, nose hairs. So when you breathe in, they filter the air and like the dust particles and everything are trapped. Okay, so that's your second defense. Then you have chemical barriers. One is mucus, which is secreted by the lining of the alimentary canal. Mucus basically it lubricates the passageways, and it also and it also protects. Okay, wait. So basically, mucus is secreted by the linings of the alimentary canal. Over there, it protects that lining and prevents it getting worn and torn. And otherwise, mucus is also secreted by your in your trachea. It's secreted over there, where it traps dust particles because of its sticky liquidy texture, and then your ciliated cells, your hairs, move back, beat to and fro to move it towards the throat and away from the lungs. Okay, so that is basically your mucus. Then you have stomach acid, which we have learned in chapter 7. It is basically secreted by the stomach. It's hydrochloric acid. It not only provides an optimum pH for pepsin to work, but it also denatures bacteria because of its low pH that is not optimum for bacterial activity. So chemical barriers kind of kill bacteria. You write kill bacteria, you get your mark. Okay. Then you have cells. So you have red blood cells and white blood cells. We're only going to look at white blood cells. There are two types of white blood cells again. You have phagocytes and lymphocytes. Phagocytes carry out phagocytosis. That is, they engulf pathogens, okay? They engulf them and kind of destroy them. And then we have lymphocytes, phagocytes and lymphocytes. So lymphocytes produce antibodies. These antibodies are used to mark down pathogens for the phagocytes to kind of act on and engulf or kill. Okay, and antibodies can also destroy their cell wall and everything. So that is your lymphocytes and phagocytes. Phagocytes carry out phagocytosis. Lymphocytes produce antibodies. Then you have a vaccine. We will see how a vaccine works. This is very interesting. Okay, so when you are asked about the defenses, the two barriers of your body, you mentioned your mechanical barrier and chemical barrier, and you need to be able to explain both and give examples of both, okay? And you can get it for a 5-mark question. Okay, antibodies. Now, basically, antibodies lock on to antigens. Now, basically, an antigen is a specific kind of surface on a pathogen, okay? So basically antibodies lock onto these antigens, okay, which lead to a direct destruction of the pathogen, okay? Or it could also mark, as I previously said, mark the pathogen for phagocytosis to take place. So every pathogen has its own antigens, each have specific shapes. So as we learned before in chapter 5, how the enzyme is complementary, the enzyme active site is complementary to the substrate. The antibodies have to have a specific shape. They have to be complementary to the antigens, and so specific antibodies will only work on specific antigens. Okay. Then you have active immunity, which is basically where vaccinations come into play. So you need to know your definition as well, which is your first line. It is defense against a pathogen by antibody production in the body. Okay, so antibodies are produced by lymphocytes. So active immunity is defense against a pathogen by producing antibodies in your body. So active immunity is gained after an infection by a pathogen or if you get vaccinated. So basically when there's a pathogen in your body is going to react. So antibodies specific to the antigen of the pathogen will be produced. So because antibodies are being produced in the body, it's active immunity. Okay. Now, if you're going to look at a vaccination, how exactly does a vaccination work? So first, a harmless form or the deadened form or the weak form of a toxin or a pathogen is secrete or is released inside the body. Okay, it is released inside the body. This form has antigens. These antigens trigger an immune response by lymphocytes. So lymphocytes detect this change in antigen and this addition of antigens in the body, and so they produce antibodies which are complementary to the antigen. And so what happens is memory cells are produced. Memory cells copy the code. So the next time that this kind of pathogen enters the body, the response is going to be much faster because the memory cells have already copied the code of the antibody. They just have to reinitiate it. Okay, reinitialize it. And so this gives you long-term immunity because it's not just a one-time thing. It's going to keep happening. Whenever this pathogen enters, memory cells will be triggered, dead. You get your immunity. Okay, so vaccinations help control the spread of diseases. So why they do this is because once someone is vaccinated, their body has the antibodies to fight against the pathogen. So when this happens, there's a smaller chance of the pathogen escaping the body because the pathogen is going to be destroyed by the antibodies itself. Okay, so when the pathogen is like not able to leave the body, the disease becomes less transmissible because less people are going to be infected because the pathogen is going to be destroyed. So that was that. You need to have known the exact stages of vaccination. You write memory cells, you get a mark. Antigens, 1 mark. Long-term immunity, 1 mark. Then harmless form of the pathogen or a toxin released into the body is another mark. And the production of antibodies by lymphocytes is another mark. You can get this for 5 to 6 marks. You should be able to explain every step. Okay, so that previous thing was taken from your syllabus. So yeah. Okay, now what is passive immunity? So passive immunity is basically short term. No memory cells are produced. It's basically the opposite. Short term, no memory cells are produced, and the pathogens are. The defense against pathogens is by antibodies again, but the antibodies are acquired. They are transferred from one individual to another. They are not produced by the body. They are like released into the body. So, for example, from a mother to an infant. So, when a mother is breastfeeding her infant, the antibodies are going to pass through, and in milk, and the infant will acquire those antibodies. So, it's actually useful for infants because they can't produce their own antibodies. You need a lot of protein to produce antibodies. So initially when they're small, and nutrition and every other and the food intake is low, the mother's antibodies are going to help them fight against disease and keep them strong, keep them ensure that their immunity is high, that they're less susceptible. Susceptible to disease is a wonderful term to use, okay, for your IGCSEs. So less susceptible to disease means you're less open, or your chances of getting a disease, acquiring a disease are much less, okay? So yeah. And then this is, yeah, some diseases are caused by the immune system targeting and destroying body cells. So that is sometimes when there's like a malfunction in your body, the immune system cells start destroying cells. So that example is type 1 diabetes. I've never really seen an explanation or anything asked. Okay, but you should be able to state it for sure. The textbooks explain it extremely well. So I think you can probably go over that part in your textbook. So yeah, that was that. And this is the last segment of your chapter. You need to be able to explain the importance of hygienic food preparation, good personal hygiene, waste disposal, and sewage treatment in controlling the spread of disease. There's an E at the end, I'm sorry. Okay. So basically, as I spoke to you before about the butcher with the disease and everything. So basically, the whole idea of this is to prevent the spread of disease. So when you are preparing food hygienically, you're kind of stopping the pathogen from being transmitted from one organism to another. Okay, so that's hygienic food preparation. Good personal hygiene, that is washing your hands. Like after you enter a contaminated place, that is a public toilet, your own toilet at home, you wash your hands. So any bacteria, any droplets, they're all wiped away. So there's less chances of entering your body, despite you having chemical and mechanical barriers. Okay. Then you have waste disposal and sewage treatment. Okay, so now this is another process that you should be able to kind of you should be able to recall. So waste disposal is basically hygienically, discarding your waste. Okay, and when you're looking at sewage treatment, you could also look at the purification of water types. Okay, um, this comes later in your chapter, but basically it's about so basically, when you discard sewage, if you directly put it into a lake or a water body that is going to give you water later, okay, and it doesn't have any filters or purifiers, you're relying on the purity of nature itself. You're taking a huge chance. You're not really taking required precautions to curb the spread of disease. So basically, sewage treatment is about purifying the sewage, extracting it, removing it, chlorinating water, killing bacteria, filtering the water to remove insoluble impurities, and then letting it, be transferred back to your homes. So these are really small topics. Okay, they're again in your textbook. They're very self-explanatory. So I just included what the syllabus requirement is. So you should be able to explain the importance of these. That is basically to prevent the spread of disease, ensure a better healthcare, raise immunity of people, and stuff like that. So that was your chapter in 15 minutes. I hope it helped you. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I'll drop my email down below. And I hope this kind of, gave you a clearer idea of diseases and immunity. If you have any other questions, always feel free to email me. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe this video. And we'll get through this together.